This week on Business Mike, the business of web design. My guest today is Larry Botha. He's the co-founder of Fixit, a team of passionate web designers and developers with a focus on delivering world-class products to their clients. In this episode, Larry and I discuss the key features that can help a business website become more effective. All this and more next on Business Mike.
You're listening to the Business Mike podcast, amazing interviews with inspiring entrepreneurs. For more amazing interviews, go to www.businessmike.com or download our podcast every Monday from Pod Africa.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Mike. Joining me today is Larry. Larry, welcome to the show.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Daddy.
Can you just let the listeners know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm a front-end developer and a director at Fixit. Front-end developer means that I work with the public-facing side of a website, what people interact with, what you actually see when you go to a website. And at Fixit, we focus on building web applications, and we focus on user experience and the long-term scalability of people's websites in terms of how easy it is to use and how easy it is to extend and to continue evolving products with our clients.
Right. As I mentioned before we started recording, I just wanted to have an episode whereby we enlighten business owners about websites and how valuable they can be to their businesses. But I just wanted to start with a simple question to you. Of late, there's so many do-it-yourself websites. You have the likes of Wix, Squarespace, and so on and so forth. How does this impact your business? Do you still get clients, or do you find that people are opting to use those instead?
Well, it sort of depends on what a company is looking for. Our focus is primarily on web applications, so it's more software that runs in the browser. Think of Facebook. I mean, we're obviously nowhere near that scale, and our clients' budgets are not sitting in the billions of dollars. But we're basically building software that runs in the browser. So think of Dropbox and Facebook, and basically a website that does something more advanced than a general website. So if you look at Wix and WordPress and Squarespace and those services are geared primarily towards companies who want to upload content and want to write things for people to see and just to have a sort of a presence. So our focus has moved away from that and more to the application side. So our business has basically evolved with the times, and there's definitely a place for those services. Squarespace is an amazing service. In fact, we pretty much don't compete on the brochure website side of things because Squarespace is so effective. It's so effective that when clients come to us and they look for that type of site, we actually tell them, listen, you might as well go to Squarespace because our fees don't actually make sense for you to do what we would do for you, or we can build a Squarespace website for you. It really depends on what they're looking for, but our focus has moved away from that sort of things.
Right. So can you just share with us your journey at Fixit? Is that how you started out and evolved to this stage? And just let us know what the transition was. How did you start, and what inspired you to actually start Fixit, your own company that builds websites?
All right. So it's quite a story, but basically what happened is I knew for a long time that I wanted to build websites. I always sort of dabbled here and there. And then eventually at a previous job, I was just sort of tired of what was going on. And I thought, okay, let me just build a website here because there's not really actually very much for me to do at this company. And then after I built the website, I actually went to my boss and I said, listen, I'm resigning. I'm going to start my own company building websites. And in doing so, I got a friend of mine on board, and there was the two of us for a couple of years. And we started working with a design team, and they didn't have any development on their side, and they were getting a lot of skills. I mean, they were getting a lot of requests for websites, so they could design them, but they couldn't implement them. And so after a few years of working with them, the four of us decided to get together, and it's been Fixit for about 4 or 5 years now.
Wow. And so far, what's your favorite part of the experience?
I'm quite a geek for learning new things. So as bizarre as it sounds, my favorite thing is being challenged with new things all the time, and the learning that forces me to keep up with what's going on. So I think definitely is the challenge of new problems and the learning that I have to do in order to do that.
Yeah, and how fast does the web development side of things evolve? For instance, is there any software you're using now that perhaps didn't exist last year or the year before? How quickly is the cycle, the learning curve? How often do you have to find yourself reading something new just to keep up?
It's an endless cycle. There's this thing in the JavaScript community specifically called JavaScript fatigue. And it's basically a lot of JavaScript and front-end developers getting tired with how fast things are coming out. You can use a new library or a new framework, a new JavaScript framework in a website, and that thing can be obsolete in 6 months, which is insane. So it's a never-ending cycle, and there's a lot of frustration around it. But I think there's a lot to be said for understanding the fundamentals and learning the core concepts of the technologies, and then it makes it easier to pick things up. But yeah, it doesn't stop, and it can be very overwhelming.
Right. So as I mentioned, today we want to talk about websites for your average Joe business owner. And as an expert that develops websites, I just wanted to get an opinion from you as to what you commonly see as common mistakes that we make as business owners when we create our websites. What are some of the do's and don'ts in your opinion?
So I think with a lot of websites, it's easy for the product owners to forget that their site is not about them, and it's actually about the visitors that they're trying to convert into customers, or the people that they're trying to attract to their websites. A lot of us will think, okay, I like this color and I like that color. This is what I want my site to look like. But the point really that I'm getting at is that it's not what you like, it's what your customers like, and that's where you need to do research into what your customers are responding to, what your customers' needs are, and what their frustrations are. A lot of us will build a product because we're passionate about something, but we quickly forget that our passions are not necessarily what's going to help other people. It's what other people are struggling with. So I think a core thing is forgetting that you are not the user, and that you need to consider your customer and hold them at the core of all your decisions when building your website, when building your brand, and when building your products.
Right. And what are some of the features you'd say that make a compelling website? What are some of the key things that have to stand out on a website?
So definitely, it definitely has to look great, but looking great is only a small part of it. It has to work well in terms of how people are interacting with the site, and this is where user research comes in, and actually testing your website with real users, seeing where they're struggling, seeing where bottlenecks are, and addressing those problems directly. That's definitely a big part of it. A lot of people think like, oh, I want my website to be pretty, but a pretty website does not necessarily mean it's a good website and an effective website. An effective website is a website that when a visitor gets there, they know what your website is about, and they know what you're offering, and they know how to get what you're offering. And that's a big thing that a lot of people can definitely benefit from. Apart from that, your sites have to be fast. If you want to be Google indexed with Google, you need to have a fast website. They penalize sites that are slow. You need to have your website work on all devices, so from desktop down to mobile devices. If your website is not working on a mobile phone, then Google will heavily penalize you for that. And I think understanding that when people are looking for companies or services or products, they don't want to read an immense amount of information. They want to know upfront what you're offering and whether you can offer it or not. And we see a lot of the time people will come along and they'll be like, oh, I want all this content on my page. Describe my entire process, describe my entire company, describe every product on this single page. And what people are quick to forget is that people online have a very low tolerance for things that take a lot of time. Everyone's got a very short attention span. You want images to describe what's going on. You want bold headings that describe exactly what you're doing, and just keeping your content down to exactly what it is you're offering, and telling people how they can benefit from your services is basically those things basically form a great website.
Yeah, I agree. And normally what I tell my colleagues when it comes to website design is think of your website as a website that someone that has come to your site has probably seen 5 other websites in your genre. Maybe if you're selling shoes, they've seen 5 other websites that sell shoes, and they're going to see 10 others that sell shoes. So while they're on your website, they need to know very quickly how you differentiate from the other 5 they've seen and the next 10 they're going to see. So the less wordy you are, the better off.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's about giving them information right up front, and not it's not wasting people's time really, because people on the internet are very, very impatient.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mobile friendly thing, I think I saw a statistic. I would say maybe 2 years ago, I used to get annoyed at videos that were recorded in portrait, especially when I'm doing them on a landscape sort of laptop or tablet. And I recently saw a statistic that the portrait videos on the web are, if not the same as landscape, probably more now. So you need to have...
Oh, no.
You need to have a mobile-friendly website, because it seems whatever content we're putting out, be it video, text, or anything, it's actually designed for that mobile interface.
And definitely in emerging markets like in much of Africa, the number of people that are sitting on desktop computers are far outweighed by the number of people sitting with Android and iPhones. So if you're not providing an experience tailored specifically for people with those smaller devices, they're going to go elsewhere. Google's not going to rank you very well, and you're basically going to waste your money and your time.
Yeah, and a very simple example to that is one of the villages here in Uganda in the north. I had a colleague who was working for an NGO there, and they said it's really fascinating about this place because these people don't have post office box numbers. They don't have any PO box. They don't have any landlines, but they have smartphones. So they skipped an entire generation of communication and straight away went to a smartphone. So it just shows you how, especially on the African continent, with the penetration of smartphones and the internet, we're skipping some of the old technology and straight away going for, the cheaper Android mobile phones and that kind of thing. So definitely mobile, I would argue, on any kind of website you're developing is critical. Even the content itself.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So, with regards to the look of the website, you've told us what's important, and you had mentioned something about Google. So when it comes to search, or what we call search engine optimization, what are some of the tricks we can use to appear on probably the first or second page on Google? Because for whatever business you come up with, probably there's, 100 people that already have that, and it's competition. So how do you, try and find your way to the top?
Well, unfortunately, with this sort of thing, there are no tricks. It basically comes down to writing great content, getting other people to link back to your website for that content, and being persistent. And there are a few other things that come into account. Your website's speed is a big factor in that. You have to ensure that you've got all the code stuff in your meta tags need to have the right words, your page titles and that sort of stuff. But basically what it comes down to is are you creating content that is setting you apart from other people, and are people linking to your content? If neither of those two things are happening, it's going to be extremely difficult to get to the first or second page. The second page really doesn't count. People generally don't look past the 7th link on Google search results. So if you're not within the first 7, you are pretty much nowhere. So you need to make sure that you're creating value for people, that your content is your content as well. If you copy anyone else's content and Google finds out, they're going to drop you straight out. So it's pretty much quality content and good content, and making people want to say, listen, these people have something good to say. Go look there. Go read what these people have to say, and showing Google that you are an authority on the subjects that you're talking about.
Right. And this is something I discovered when I was actually working on the Business Mike website, because as I was researching what could help me get to the first page, the key things that were stressed were quality links coming in and quality links going out. So it's one thing, you must have people linking to your unique pages within your website, which are clearly labeled and can be found on Google search, but you must also have quality links going out. So basically you must be, in a sort of way, a part of an ecosystem of content.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Right. And in your experience, what type of content normally sells better? Is it video? Is it a blog? Because I noticed very many websites have blogs, but you click on the blog and there are probably 2 blogs in the past 2 years. So it's never updated. And even the content itself isn't unique enough. There's nothing in the material written that you can actually go on Google and search for. It's so generic.
Yeah, it's an evolving sort of area. I think no one really knows how people are going to respond to different formats. Blogging was massive. I think from about 2003 or 2004, it started picking up in an incredible way. A lot of people making a lot of money in very short spaces of time. And then that sort of tapered off as a lot of people got on the bandwagon. Podcasting came around in about 2008 and it was slow and it didn't really do anything. And now podcasting since I think about 2015 about 2015 has skyrocketed. It's going crazy. Everyone is hooked on the format and loving it. A new format that seems to be coming out is sort of vlogging and video diaries and that sort of stuff. That seems to be picking up in a big way, and web seminars seem to be up on the rise as well. People having live interactions with potential customers, with the actual customers, and showing people in real time the value that they can provide, and having conversations in real time. That's a new thing that's now making big waves in terms of content that people can provide for their visitors.
Right, and I think another form of content that I've recently had being strongly encouraged are newsletters. Because what happens is majority of the people that start a company and get an online presence, they normally go to social media. So they have a Facebook page and Twitter page. And more often than not, those pages are more active than their website because they have a lot more traffic there. But it's strongly encouraged that you have a newsletter as well, because if you have people's email addresses, then you have them for life. People rarely change their email addresses, but Facebook one day it can be gone, or Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we don't really focus on marketing and newsletter campaigns at Fixit, so I might not be the best person to talk about this sort of stuff, but there's definitely a lot to be said about drip campaigns and providing value to people over a long period of time. A lot of people will create a newsletter and then they'll send out something trying to get a sale immediately. And there's a lot to be said about people who provide value through creating free content through the newsletters. So they'll say they'll send out 4 or 5 newsletters just with information which is valuable to people that people can use immediately in their lives to improve their lives. And then that way they're building loyalty and then it'll make getting some sort of sale or conversion a lot easier at a later point. And I think also a lot of people, they chase enormous lists. Like people want 100,000 or 200,000 people on their newsletter. But a lot of people don't realize that if you have 2,000 highly engaged, highly loyal people on your newsletter who love everything that you say and they eat it up, whatever you say, they love it because you're providing great content. Those 2,000 people are far more effective and far more valuable to you than 100,000 people who don't really care about what you're saying. So I think there's a bit of a mind shift. Everyone is going after quantity with newsletters, and I think what is really important is how many people do you have in your newsletter who actually want to hear what you're saying and who will actually buy what you say, and actually trying to filter out people who are not interested, because you're going to get more value by doing that.
No, absolutely true. I agree 100%. I just wanted to move on to what we call the calls to action. And I just want to get from your point of view, because you mentioned you're not really into the marketing thing. So when it comes to designing a website, is there someone on the client side that you normally work with, perhaps a copywriter or something of the sort, to help you with the content, or do the clients just give you, I don't know, a Word document with all the text and then they leave it to you to do the rest?
It depends on the project. Sometimes we will write the copy in-house. Most of the time we do outsource the copy to to someone who we can work with, someone that we trust that'll provide us with good copy for our client site. But it used to be a service we had internally, but we've moved away from it to focus our core services a bit more.
Right. And what are some of the projects that you're working on? What kind of website and exciting things are you doing at the moment?
So at the moment, we're working on an educational game that's going to be launched in the UK in a few months. It's called EduGames Plus. It's basically a tool to help kids who are going into their public schools, which I think is, I'm not sure if in Uganda if you call the private schools there, but it's similar to our private schools in South Africa. They are extremely difficult to get into, and we've built a platform to help these kids, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, to hone their skills in maths and English, and give them a bit of a boost to get into these schools because there's stringent exams. Then we've got an Australian client called Intelligent Screening. They basically, the application that we've just launched for them helps make it easier for people to get health tests, health tests throughout a whole range of different scenarios. There's health tests for athletes. There's health tests for ladies who are looking to find out how fertile they are. There's tests for seeing basic things like your cholesterol levels. So the application makes it easier for people to get these tests, understand what goes into these tests, and get feedback from these tests from the doctors that are sort of working behind this application that we've built. And then in New York, we've got a client we've had for quite a while now, and we're doing a massive infrastructure upgrade, and it's quite an involved process, but we're getting there. So that's pretty much what's on our plate at the moment.
Right. And I don't know if any of the listeners have actually seen what back-end code looks like. All those projects you're describing, I honestly don't know how you keep your sanity. So I just wanted to inquire what you do to relax, especially when you have so many projects and you're trying to fix bugs and you can't afford to mess up even one line of code. Otherwise, the whole thing will just, be jeopardized and that kind of thing. So how do you relax?
I study a lot. I suppose it relaxes me in one way in that I don't freak out so much at work when I'm encountering something that I'm not sure how to solve. But I find the process of learning and applying myself. A lot of people don't relate to it being relaxing, but I do find it relaxing. I enjoy learning new things, but I suppose when I'm not learning, I'm pretty much reading, and when I'm not reading, I'm going out with my partner and watching movies and going for walks. And yeah, I suppose sometimes you do need to get away from it a bit.
Right. Now here's one thing that's always puzzled me, especially with programming. They're what we call bugs. I think everyone knows what bugs are. So number one, how are bugs discovered? And then number two, how do you actually figure out where the bug is and then fix it? Because prior to that, you probably launched the product or app having checked it thoroughly. You're like, okay, everything seems okay. Here we go. But all of a sudden, there's a bug. So who finds these bugs? Do you guys find the bugs? Do clients find the bugs? How does that work?
Well, as developers, we're the ones that make the bugs. As for who finds it, that's whoever does the thing that elicits the bug, I suppose. Often a user will do something that as a developer you might think, oh, no one's ever going to do this. And then a user goes and does it, and you're like, oh my word, okay, now I've got to go fix this because it's some scenario that you thought would never happen, or it's a scenario that you never imagined would happen. It's not a matter of neglecting certain parts of your code. It's just impossible to consider every single alternative, or every sort of event that could happen. So it could come down to visitors finding bugs. The client may find a bug. The client may request a feature and it might not do something which they think is a bug, which is a completely different story. That moves into scoping projects out. Or you might just be trying to fix something, and in fixing something or building something, you just by chance happen to find a bug that no one would ever really find or may not ever find, and you happen to see it and you know it's there, so then you can fix it. But in terms of preventing that from happening, There's a number of ways you can do it. The best way really is to I'm not sure if there's other fields that do this, but basically what you do is you write a test that fails, then you write the code that makes the test pass, and then you have tests in place. So it's a bit of a roundabout way. Instead of writing code that does something, first you write a test that explains how the code should work. That test fails immediately because there is no code, and then you write the code which satisfies that test, and then in future that test should never fail. And if it does fail, you make sure that code never goes out into production until it has been fixed. And there's lots of techniques to prevent bad code from going out into production. But in terms of trying to catch every bug, that's a mammoth task, and and we're only human.
Right. So basically, from what you're saying, the way I understand it is when you're writing code, you're writing permutations, if this then that, if this then that. So there's only a limit to which you can, do that. And a bug is a permutation that you actually hadn't accounted for. So you just add it in the code, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. And just handling those cases to ensure that they don't break things. Yes.
All right. Well, lately I've been seeing a lot of artificial intelligence in the news and how there's no job that is done by a human being that won't be done by AI in the future. Does writing code fall in that category? Do you see a future whereby you just describe exactly what you want and a machine will actually write this code and finish it?
I have no idea how that's going to work, but I definitely don't doubt it. I think my job as a programmer is no safer than that of an accountant or a lawyer or someone else's job who could be automated. I think the time that it'll take to automate my job will take a little bit longer than other people's jobs, but in terms of it being automated, I don't doubt it for a minute. There's some crazy stuff coming out with AI lately. And a lot of the things people just can't foresee, and there's no way of telling as well. I mean, we're talking about something which is essentially more intelligent than us, and so much more intelligent to us than to a degree that it can't explain things to us. There's already things out there where a bot will come up with some sort of solution to a problem, and you can see it's the right solution, but there's no way you can get that AI to explain to you how it got to that point, because we just can't comprehend what's going on. So yeah, there's amazing things coming. There's terrifying things coming. But it's all very exciting.
Okay. Final question. If you were cast away to a desert island and you could only take one of each, what book would you take with you? What movie would you take with you? And what song would you take with you?
For a book, I think I'd take Peak by Anders Ericsson. It's a book on basically mastering any sort of skill and how people can master skills. I'm not sure what I'd do with that on an island. Maybe I'd do a lot of swimming or a lot of digging. For a movie, I'd probably take Fight Club. I don't know if I can watch that movie enough times. And for a song, I think anything from Beck's Morning Phase, something relaxing.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for everything you've shared with us. And can you just let the listeners know how they can connect with you online?
Awesome. You can get hold of me via our contact form on fixate.it/contact, or you can catch me on Twitter with Larry Botha, LarryBotha.
Right. Well, thank you once again, Larry, and all the very best with the Fixate.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me, Dowdy.
Thanks for listening to the Business Mike podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. If you've got any questions or feedback, you can reach me on Twitter @DowdyMugabi, on Facebook @BusinessMike, or email. That's dowdy@businessmike.com. Look out for a brand new episode every Monday, and until then, take care.